Welcome to HB Tuner's GM Gen 4 Training Part 47. This training module, we're going to take a look at how we can dial in our airflow correlation within our Gen 4 vehicles. The airflow correlation is going to relate to our throttle body shutdown, so it's going to be a fail-safe protection feature that's built into our engine control module if we have a runaway throttle situation. We want to make sure that we keep this throttle shutdown, throttle runaway safety in place so that we don't have the vehicle crashing or getting into unsafe conditions. We're going to go over how to properly calibrate things in this tutorial. Without further wait, let's jump in so we can check this out. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to be taking a look at dialing in our airflow correlation within our GM Gen 4 vehicles. Our airflow correlation is going to be related to our P0068 DTC that can get thrown if for some reason we're getting into a runaway throttle situation. Now normally when we're doing our calibrating, and I've demonstrated this in many other training modules in our Gen 4 course, we turn off that checksum for the P0068 and we raise all the table limits out of the way so we don't have to worry about it getting in our way and shutting the throttle down when we're doing our tuning process. Because at that point, as we're calibrating our airflow model and getting things sorted out, we don't know how much airflow is being ingested into our engine, so we can't populate the tables out properly. But once we've dialed things in, we want to turn back on that airflow correlation checksum so that it is going to recognize a throttle runaway situation. You don't want the liability for going and having some vehicle that you've calibrated, having the owner crash the vehicle because of a throttle runaway situation that could damage the vehicle, could damage property, could get people hurt. We want to make sure that we're not doing that. So I'm going to show how to actually dial this in. It's actually really straightforward and simple. A couple different tables we have to work with. We can use our VCM scanner to actually log some data and being able to figure out the exact values to place into the table that will make sense. So what we're going to do here, we're going to jump in and we're going to take a look at an example calibration file here. Any Gen 4 calibration file will work to follow along. I have a 2009 Cadillac CTSV file that I'm going to be working with here. This is a stock equivalent file. We're going to take a look at the area where we can locate the airflow correlation tuning and talk about some of the tables, and then we'll talk about how we can move into the VCM scanner and use some log data to repopulate one of the main tables. So the first thing I'm going to do here is jump into the engine diag section. Then I'm going to move from our general tab over here into airflow. Now under airflow here, we're going to find our section airflow correlation. And this is going to be the P0068. So if this code gets thrown, it puts the engine control module into a limp mode. It's going to try to shut the throttle plate down. It's going to try to limit what the engine is doing to prevent that runaway throttle situation. We want this in place again to make sure we're not going to get into a situation where somebody's going to get hurt or we're going to damage property, damage vehicles. We want to make sure that this is always enabled after you've done your calibration. So when you're doing your initial calibration, you want to go in and set this and turn this off essentially, and I've demonstrated that. We'd set this something high, something like 8,000 RPM. This would turn off the checksum for the P0068. So you shouldn't get any throttle shutdown or any kind of odd problems going into limp mode if you have your enable RPM set very high here. But once you've done your calibration, you've dialed in your airflow model, once everything is sorted out with the vehicle and it's running properly, that's where we're going to take a look at some of these tables here to dial in. So let me return this back to 800 RPM. Once we've actually tuned out the vehicle, we'll return this back so that airflow correlation checksum is going to start here at 800 RPM and higher, and it'll start to take a look at the 4 different tables that we have to work with here. So first and foremost, we have our max airflow versus RPM table. This is based on engine speed, as we can find up here, and then it's going to say airflow max. This is the maximum amount of airflow per RPM that we want to see. If it starts to exceed what we have here for airflow at a particular RPM range, it will go in and trip the P0068. This is making sure, again, that we don't have a runaway throttle. So you can imagine at something like 3,000 RPM, if we're at 50% throttle or 80% throttle, for example, we'll have a certain amount of airflow coming into the engine. Whether that's going to be 140 grams per second is to be seen. We need to go and reference what data logs will show us from our VCM scanner. But if we exceed this amount of airflow in grams per second in our dynamic airflow parameter, it will go into the fail-safe shutdown. We'll find that if we have a runaway throttle situation, it could, at 3,000 RPM, it could be in a situation where it exceeds that. Under normal driving situations, it won't exceed that. So we need to populate this table out based on what it shows from a histogram we're going to look at, and then we're going to actually bump the values up just. Thanks for checking out our teaser clip. If you want to see the rest of this video and more than 500 hours of current EFI training we have to offer, make sure you click right here. If you want to go and check out more teaser clips from this training course, click here, and you don't want to miss any of the videos we're going to be releasing on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.